Okay, so we're here. We're live. This is happening. Old guy, new technology. What could possibly go wrong? Um, so I'm shaven and I'm wearing non-pajama clothes, and I've got this picture of a bookshelf behind me to make me look more serious, and to hide the dartboard and the big screen TV and the Farrah Fawcett poster. Okay. First things first, for those of you who are tuned in, I hope you're all healthy, and I hope that your family and your friends are doing well too. And to the children who are listening to this, I can only imagine that for you with this event that we're all going through, that it must be very strange, and it's probably somewhat frustrating and maybe even scary too. As far as strange is concerned, you know, sometimes strange is good. We break from a routine, it gives us a different perspective, it inspires creativity, and maybe we'll make changes, you know, in the world for the better after this is all over. Now, as far as feeling frustrated and scared, like a lot of adults, I wish I could just make all of that go away for you. But at the very least, what I hope is maybe this story can offer a little bit of distraction in your day. So you don't have to stare at the screen, you know, while you're listening to the story. I mean, if you're able to do this at home, you know, grab a pillow and go lay on the couch, or, you know, lay on the carpet. Don't lay on the roof. Lay on the dog if your dog's big enough. Um, but before you do, I want to remind you that Audrey Cow is a story that's told in voices. So there are 33 narrators, and so if you haven't done so already, you can go to the Tundra Books website and download a cast list. So Tundra Books, so it's www.tundrabooks.com, and then you go to the menu and it says virtual story times and sing-alongs. And I'm not sure if this is in reverse for you, but just in case, I did it backwards, but I forgot the S. So you go there, and then you go down to my name, and you should be able to download the characters. Okay, so a quick intro to the story. Audrey Cow is about a young cow who is destined to go to the slaughterhouse, to the abattoir, but manages to escape and hide in the woods for over a week. This was inspired by a true story. And I think around 2003 in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States, there was such a cow who did escape, and she became a bit of a celebrity, which is how I found out about her, and wanted to make the story about her. Audrey Cow, this book, this book is written in 6 acts. So an act is much longer than a chapter. So my intention is that I'm going to each day read half of an act, so that we should probably be finished the story in about 10 days. So that's what my plan is. Okay, so I'm going to get a drink of water, and we're going to get into this. So, Act 1, the knowledge. Madge, cow. How would I describe her in a word? Well, young. That was her, plain and simple. Too young to go through what she did, poor thing. Eddie, dog. Gosh, I'd have to say kind. She was really kind. And sweet, too. Oh, that's 2 words, isn't it? May I use 2 words? Because I would have to say she was both really kind and really sweet and beautiful, too. Oh, heck, that just came out. Can we cut that part, please? Oh, everyone's going to give me a razzing about that. Greta, cow. In one word? Tragic. Yeah, tragic is good word. Norma, cow. Pass. What? Oh, for heaven's sakes, no, pass is not my word to describe her. I meant that I was not taking part in this silly interview. She's gone. Out of sight, out of mind, I say. Roy, hoarse. I reckon I'd have to say plucky. She was a pretty little thing, but underneath that soft hide was one brave gal.
Buster, pig. Oh, obviously the word would be vaca. Why? Because that's Latin for cow. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I hope you brought along some harder questions. Audrey, cow. How would I briefly describe myself? I'm afraid I'm not a cow of few words. Mother once said that my heart speaks a mile a minute, by which she meant that emotions can get the best of me, and then I'm off to the races conversation-wise. It was her suggestion that I practice distilling my feelings into fewer words. But as to your question, how can you describe anyone, really? The inside and outside can be so different. Here is a poem I composed a while back near Artificial Lake, around the time of my awakening. It goes like this. The cow that I spied was silent and still, her smile serene, her mood tranquil. Oh, to be she without worry or fear, empty of dread and full of good cheer. Familiar she seemed, and on closer inspection, it was me that I spied in the water's reflection. So you never really know, do you? But I think that if I was to choose just one word to describe myself, that word would be alive. Yes, alive. You see, I knew exactly where I was, and I knew exactly where I was heading, which was downhill straight to the meat section of the supermarket. That just wasn't acceptable to me. I mean, I had dreams. I wanted to go places other than the meat section of the supermarket. I wanted to taste new grasses and flowers and see a million sunrises and sunsets. I had no time for cows who said, Audrey, this is your lot in life. Accept it and make the best of it. I couldn't. I couldn't give up on life so soon. Glenn, human.
Again? Oh, it seems the interest in Audrey won't ever settle down. What more can I tell you folks? The truth is that this whole media hullabaloo is embarrassing. Bittersweet Farm has been in my family for 4 generations. We're not particularly big. We're certainly no factory farm. We have a variety of animals, but cows are a big part of the business. Audrey was born here. As far as I know and understand cows, I would not say Audrey was special. I will admit she was memorable. I'd often have to send my older dog Max out to the far end of the property to bring her back to the barn. But I didn't discover any half-dug tunnels under the fence like they've been saying on television. That just didn't happen. As for what did happen, I have no comment. Look, we brought her mother onto the farm as an experiment, a new breed we were trying out. Maybe it didn't take. Maybe that was what made Audrey do what she did. Look, not to sound corny, but I always felt we got along on Bittersweet Farm, all of us. There were no hints that something was amiss.
Audrey, cow. My breed? Why, I'd be happy to tell you. I'm a Charolais. It kind of rhymes with parler, which is how you would say to speak if you said it in French. France is where my roots are, in the town of Charolles, which is in the middle of the country. I know all this partly from Mother, but also from little girl Elsbeth, who was showing off to her city cousin. She had a book in her hand and was pointing to a map, and I was spying over their shoulders. That's how I learned about the land of my ancestors. That's also why I learned about the giant lake called Atlantic that separates Bittersweet Farm from France, and that brought my dream of travel to a halt. You see, I wanted to visit Charolles and partake of the local food. Little girl Elsbeth showed pictures in her book of French Charolais, my cousins, I suppose. They were standing in fields, grazing on flowers that I did not recognize. They looked delicious. The flowers, I mean. Elsbeth, human. Audrey, she was my favorite. I could talk to her. I could, you know. Audrey, she was always nice. She would listen. I think she was special. Audrey, cow. We Charolais, you will note, are all white, but creamy white would be more accurate. We don't have those black splotches that you find on similar-looking white breeds. Norma says that black splotches give her character and uniqueness. She says that it makes her interesting, implying that Charolais are not. But Mother said that Charolais come into the world as blank canvases, and our potential is unknown at first. Mother said that my character would be painted on the inside. I like that. Whenever I experience something that makes me happy, if I hear a robin singing just before dawn, or if I inhale the scent of grass just after a rainfall, I imagine that tickling I feel inside is a paintbrush dabbling on another splotch of my uniqueness. I was strengthened by thoughts like that, especially in the face of what others were telling me, others who were far less generous. For example, the book from which little girl Elsbeth was reading that day, that said Charolais are docile by nature, which means we're quiet and easy to control. It means that we're unlikely to cause any trouble. Well, you can decide for yourself how true that observation turned out to be. Norma, cow. Oh, that Audrey, she was born with fancy pants on, that one. What? Yes, I know perfectly well what I said earlier. I'm not senile, and I'm not a dim light bulb like Agnes either. Look, everyone knows I'm not one to gossip, but if you're going to insist on telling the story, you'd better have at least one cow who can give you the facts. First time out of the barn, Audrey was talking about going to the farthest fields and tasting this grass or that clover, or maybe talking to a passing fox. Imagine talking to a common thief. I've been here a lot longer than she had, but I never ventured past the first hill. And why should I? Plenty of grass nearby. Who needs to go farther? That's the kind of reckless behavior that comes from a wild upbringing. Not that I like to judge. I didn't care much for Audrey's mother when she arrived. It wasn't that she was rude. On the contrary, she was very refined and quietly so. Not show-offy, which I naturally would not stand for. Come to think of it, I don't know why we didn't become closer. She was different, you understand. Her family roots were, well, let's just say she wasn't from around here. But for one reason or another, we never spent much time together. She always seemed to be grazing at the opposite end of the field, and with my weak ankles, I just wasn't... It doesn't matter anyhow. It's hindsight. It was all for the best. I certainly couldn't condone her parenting style. Look how her daughter turned out. Greta, cow.
Audrey was a dreamer. No, it is not a lie. She was too delicate for this harsh world of farm, yeah? I know. For I too was like a delicate daisy. But in time, life will shape you into something stronger and more resilient. It can be painful, yeah? But what choice do we have?
Madge, cow. Greta said what? My goodness, that cow could spin a tragedy out of a mosquito bite. The only horrible thing that happened to Greta was that she once missed a morning milking and didn't get any relief for a few extra hours. But there is some truth to what she said. As far as us cows are concerned, our lot in life is decided before we come into the world. And I said exactly that to Audrey when the time came. I said to the girl, Audrey, there are but 3 kinds of cows. There are milk cows like me, there are work cows like old Betty, and then there are food cows, and I'm afraid that your destiny is to be dinner. It was harsh, I admit it, but the poor girl needed to know the facts plain and simple. She heard me, but
She wasn't really listening because, well, Audrey was special. And I mean that in a good way, not like how Greta and Norma and all the other gossiping ninnies mean it. Audrey reminded me of my son, Lon, whom I miss greatly to this day. They're both made of the same sparkly cloth, if you catch my meaning, both looking up at the moon and believing it's within their grasp, that anything is within their grasp if they desire it enough. If you ask me, that's the real tragedy. Cows and steers meant for the dinner table shouldn't be curious or filled with wonder. They should be boring creatures who spend their days looking at the trough or the tail in front of them. Audrey, cow. Oh, I remember absolutely everything about the day Madge told me what would become of me. I had just composed another poem, this one paying tribute to some delicious clover I had recently discovered on the southern slope of Viewing Hill. It went, "Clover green, a tasty treat. I'm grateful for each one I eat." I was sharing the poem with my best friend Eddie and telling him about my plans to visit the land of my ancestors and tour the countryside, tasting all the grasses and clover the region had to offer. Eddie was great. He never laughed at my plans, not like most of the cows in the barn, and I did hear them laughing, even though I pretended not to. I know they thought I was oblivious, but I assure you I wasn't. I heard all the snickers and Norma's hoof-scraping whenever I walked by, but Madge wasn't like that. She wasn't what I would call friendly or anything, but you always knew where you stood with Madge. I heard she lost a son, had him taken away from her, and she was just supposed to get over it because it happens all the time on the farm. But I don't think she did, and I don't blame her. I think Madge lost a part of herself, part of her heart, maybe. Don't ask me how I know, because it's not a knowing kind of thing. A mist of sadness is how I describe it. Yes, a mist like we get on gray, foggy mornings that made the farm seem as if we were fading along the edges. That's what it was like with Madge, the sadness hovering around her edges, threatening to fade her away. So I knew Madge was coming over to Eddie and me even before I turned my head and saw her. I could feel the sad mist. And then Madge told me what I needed to know, told it to me straight, about the 3 types of cows and how I was in the least favored category. Eddie, dog.
I was there! Aw, jeepers, it was awful! Audrey's eyes grew big, really big, as big as Buster's eyes get whenever his slop pail is empty and he realizes there's nothing left to eat. At first, Audrey didn't say a thing. She was as quiet as a windless night, and gosh, I got a little scared myself. I stood up on my hind legs so I could reach high enough to give Audrey a few licks on her chin. She likes that, and oh heck, it doesn't mean we're boyfriend or girlfriend or anything, okay? It's just something I do to make her happy. In the same way that Audrey licks my face whenever Dad gives me a chewing out for making another mistake. Poor Audrey, she was not consoled. She said to me, "Oh, Eddie, what's going to happen to me? I don't want to be a food cow. Whatever will I do?" It made me want to howl because I didn't want Audrey to be a food cow either. She looked so sad, and I'm sure at that moment she was probably thinking she'd never get to France to taste all those delicious grasses and flowers, and that's when I told her not to worry. We'd figure something out. But there was no plan at the time. No siree, no plan at all. Roy, horse.
The plan? Whoa! Now hold on there, partner. You're jumping the story ahead of itself, putting the cart in front of the horse. Before you start chasing Audrey's tail, you might want to bide a moment and consider Janine, Audrey's mother. Janine is the key to this here adventure. It all started with her.
Audrey, cow. Mother and I didn't have long together, but I will always remember every precious second. Mother was very smart and beautiful. She was kind-hearted, too. There was a glow that shone around her. It's true, I saw it.
When I was just a little heifer, I'd study her sitting beneath an oak all at peace, her eyes dark and shiny and a halo of light radiating all around her. Mother's voice was soft and she never spoke quickly. Audrey, she might say to me one morning, look at the sun breaking beyond the hills. Isn't it beautiful? Can you feel the rays starting to warm your body? Can you see the shadows falling away? Feel the dew on your hooves, cool and wet. In a couple of hours, most of it will be gone, and you'll find drops hugging the grass and moistening your tongue as you graze. Dewdrop surprises. Mother was what one might call a detail cow, I suppose, because she'd notice the smallest parts of life, parts that most other cows skip over. I have a different name for her, though. As much as I respect Madge and appreciate her looking out for me since Mother went away and giving me the facts straight as she did, I do believe she was mistaken in one regard. There may be work cows and milk cows and food cows, but there is also another type. My mother, there are poet cows, and they too serve a purpose. My mother was one such cow. She could describe the world in all its beauty, separating the harsh and ugly parts, like farmers separate the wheat from the chaff. With her words, she made the world golden and tasty and so very big, but not scary. Yes, Mother was a poet cow, and I had to believe that as her daughter, I might have inherited some of those same qualities. If so, surely I was not meant for something more than a truck ride to Abbott's War. Norma, cow.
You want to know about what? Shame on you! Cows do not talk about Abbott's War. It's considered a very impolite subject to bring up among decent company. Goodness gracious, it gives me shivers just thinking about it.
Greta, cow.
Yeah, it's true. So true. Abbotsford is best left unspoken, for it will only bring deep and terrible sadness.
Agnes, cow.
Oh, that? I don't mind talking about Abbott's War. It's like a mystery, eh? And I like mysteries. I like watching grasshoppers, too, and saying wacka, 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 wacka over and over. And I like science fiction and stuff that's gross, which everyone says I should keep to myself, so I will. But mysteries are top of my list of favorite things. Mysteries rock, eh? Abbott's War is not a good kind of mystery, though. Like a mystery of how a new calf can get on her legs an hour after birth, which is a beautiful, glorious miracle of life. But also kind of gross, 'cause she's all covered in slimy goo, eh? Sorry, but it's not a happy mystery either. Like why humans keep wanting to exchange food for our milk. They do, you know. Like this arrangement's been going on for years and years. Like what's that all about? But Abbott's War is a dark, unsettling mystery. Like how the chickens keep clupping about their disappearing eggs. Whoa, a lot of weird stuff happen on a farm, eh? And we're going to leave it at that. For today, I mean. So, got some papers here. So, that's where I'm going to stop. So you've met the hero Audrey, and you've had a chance to get to know some of the characters on Bittersweet Farm, where Audrey lives. And you've learned that there is something terrible which the animals think is called Abbott's War, which it really doesn't. It's not actually Abbott's War. Maybe you figure out what it actually is. So, until tomorrow, same time, drop me a line if there's anything you want to share. Please tell me if the sound levels or any of that thing didn't work. And other than that, I wish you all an easy day. Bye.